Family service. My name is Joan DiStefano, and I will be the chairperson for today. We'll start with sutra chanting with Sambucho on page 24 and 25. And now we will do sutra chanting, WWII, on page 67.
シャマタギョニョゾブ両目上脈小蓮華高雅長来弥陀尊面前年上如満月以降有如千日月小如天空くしら高雅長来弥陀尊観音頂戴観中住集中名相諸言のぶくげどまけおまん高雅長来弥陀尊無備無苦高症状修徳経血尿国小さり薬徳自在高雅長来弥陀尊実法名門菩薩衆無量小魔女三段一生修上願力中高雅長来弥陀尊本体法見知正形前言少女名大座お膝上如線の高雅長来弥陀尊実法将来小仏師権限人図師安楽戦後尊厳上苦行長雅長来弥陀尊小無常無我と薬尿水月伝尿路一種説法無名字高雅長来弥陀尊一尊無説無悪名薬無尿になく道夫主任死心教非尊高雅長来弥陀尊一尊無量法勉強無少種悪知識往生不退死菩提高雅長来弥陀尊仮説非尊功徳寺修善無変如海水小逆前言少女者衛生修上 Namanda, 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 namanda.
And now, Gotha. So please stand for the Gotha. Nembutsu 1 on page 169. And then remain standing for the reading of the meditation number 4 on page 17, which Reverend Fujimoto will lead.
Same book, page 17, please. Meditation reading number 4, altogether. As the sun shines upon the earth, awakening into growth the seeds that lie dormant in the soil, may the light of wisdom shine into our minds and truly awaken us to our ignorance, and by this insight stir us to strive for a life of deeper understanding and enlightenment. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, namanda, namanda. Thank you. Please be seated.
Now Reverend Fujimoto will share a Dharma message with us. And, okay.
Namanda, 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 namanda. Good morning. Ohayou gozaimasu. Today we have a different theme, the Day of Remembrance. It was suggested from our membership that we were provided a film on Executive Order 9066, and each year, February 19th is the day that's acknowledged as the Day of Remembrance. And in 1942, that was when the President Franklin Roosevelt signed this executive order and gave the U.S. Army authority to remove Japanese American citizens from Washington, Oregon, California, and to move them inward to concentration camps, relocation centers. And so 120,000 Americans of Japanese American descent were moved from their homes. And so this has impacted family lives, communities, and has impacted our temple. So I thought we would utilize this Day of Remembrance theme to reflect upon some of the things, some of our members went through this experience. Sometimes I'm asked, which camp were you placed in? And, so that's a little bit before my time, but, during those days, very difficult time, and afterwards it became evident that no Japanese Americans were ever charged of espionage or sabotage against the United States. No one was charged, no one was convicted. And so all of these things were, they were targeted, rounded up and imprisoned for years just because they had this Japanese American face, the face of the enemy. Okay. And so this is something that has been very, very impactful. One of the things we are this weekend and next weekend we're going through, the BCA is going through their national council meetings that they hold each year. And one of the things that was brought up is this, what is it called? It's called IREI, E-R-E-I, I-R-E-I, IREI project. And so the names of all the family members who are placed in these camps are listed in this book. And this was placed in Washington, D.C., and showing side by side with this Executive Order 9066. We have the executive order on one of our windowsills over here in the social hall. But very powerful. This book, I understand, is going to be going on tour, and so it will be in the Bay District as well. I think Berkeley, Palo Alto for sure, a number of temples, maybe Oakland too. And so if we are to go there and look through the books, we'll find people, friends and family members that will be listed in this book. So I think it's very powerful to be able to see those names. You know, when early on, when I was in high school, these going to camp was not mentioned. It was not in our history books. It was not brought up by our history teachers at high school. And so even within the Japanese American community, very few people knew that this had happened. The family didn't talk about it because they didn't want to really remember, and some felt of a sense of shame of having been imprisoned in that manner. And so it wasn't really talked about, and maybe not until later, third generation, Sansei members find out about it and asking their parents and grandparents, what happened? And so this got to be opened up and talked about more. And now we are at a place where those from our families that had been imprisoned, they are very much the seniors, and so this window of opportunity to talk to them, to learn their stories, is kind of closing. So this has been going on for a number of years. So there have been interview projects and people writing down and keeping the stories of Nisei members who had gone through this experience, and we want to make sure that this does become a part of American history here. I remember talking to people as a minister, going through, and you meet a number of people, and talking to my own family, and my aunt was pretty young at that time, and she didn't think it was that bad. And so depending on the age of the person you talk to, some enjoyed being with their friends, all the time, and others, it was a terrible experience, traumatic. I mentioned to a member at Idaho, Oregon Temple that some people seem to think it was, depending on your age, it might not have been a terrible experience, and very gruff voice. Nothing good came out of going to camp, And so he had this sense of his experience. And I know Charmin went to Heart Mountain, and some of her relatives and aunties got together and went, and the younger ones, they were chit-chatting on the bus going over to this pilgrimage tour, and her mother was the elder of that family group, and she had a very visceral experience going there. She didn't want to go into some of the buildings and things, and so I want to go outside. And she's sitting there, going through terrible sense of remembering, her mother had a breast cancer at that time, and there's very little you could do, very little health care that you go through. And so she's experiencing this coming back to her. For her younger siblings, they remember playing and running from barrack to barrack and things like this. So a very different story. So going to Idaho, Oregon, there was a time I started, and maybe a year later met Charmin, and she came to one of the services, and she had what do you call it? pygmy bunny that she had at home. It's a really cute bunny, and you could stick it in your pocket. And she brought this bunny to the temple, right? And now I'm thinking, I don't want to be connected to her. You don't bring animals to the temple. This is Sunday service, But after service, she brought it out, and she's showing the members, and they're talking to her. Oh, how cute! And the elders who had gone to camp. Yeah, I remember leaving our pet cat, our pet dog, our pet bunnies, and we had animals in our household, and we couldn't bring them, and so they're part of your family, right? And so they are like abandoned. What happened to my family? They're just gone, and either they're left there for maybe a neighbor to find, or you just have to slump around away. Where do you go as a pet? And all these memories came back, and numerous people talked to her, and Sarman has a way to open people to their experiences and sharing that, and this is one of her avenues for them to open to her and sharing what they had gone through. So wow. So not just scolding her for bringing a bunny to the temple, but a learning experience for me too, that we have ways to connect to our Sangha members and to open to them and to come to explore these things that we went through as people, as families, and this is part of being a part of this temple, right? So here coming to Alameda, we have these signs here and there about the Japanese American community, the little J-town that we had here in Alameda, right? In the boundaries of, the Methodist Church and our temple and the library and marketplace and the signage that was placed up a couple years ago, and pictures of our members and the temple. So it was, as a Japantown, it was kind of like a little bit of safety to have the community here around us. We have members that came here after camp and settled. Memories of friendships and being in the courtyard, being on the temple grounds, and maybe as youngsters, there was a place, safe haven, to be here. And we had that, and that wasn't always the case. Some people were very, very isolated, but we have members that have shared this story, staying here at the temple. The temple itself has stories of being used by the government and Navy base and things like this, right? And each of our temples throughout the Buddhist churches of America have different stories. Each month I go to Enmanji in Sebastopol, and they showed me this video that I think it's called A Leap of Faith, but there's a neighboring Christian church, and their youth group, their teenagers, pretty sure they were high school age, and they took it upon themselves. The temple was abandoned, all the families went to camp, and so they came regularly to watch over the temple, make sure nothing would happen to it, no vandalism, no destruction. And so this was part of their story, to look out for their community by coming regularly to make sure that this Buddhist temple, no one's there, but let's keep it safe. It's part of our community. So they made this film. So Sensei, you might be interested in this. Why don't you look at this? And some of their members have come to, afterwards, just like here, we have our Sunday service and we have refreshments, and their members come. And they came and talking to me. So their family was part of this video that did this video about the times in World War II. And so, adults telling me, it was my parents that were the kids that were watching out for this temple. And you think, you don't think they would be the elders, just seeing the video, you think of high school kids that came and watched, but now those guardians, they're like in their 80s, late 80s and 90s, right? So to hear about that and their connection, there was some vandalism, like someone tried to start the temple on fire. They have wooden beams in their construction, and one of the beams is charred, right? And when they refurbished, they decided, let's leave this kind of a scar to remind us that these kind of things do happen. So part of their structure on the inside of the temple, you could see it every time you come in. One of their wooden beams, it's blackened. And so that's kind of their reminder of these things that happened during World War II. Okay. And all of our temples, during those days, we can think of the beginnings when we were younger here at this temple. Our ministers, primarily, they spoke Japanese, was their main language for many, many years. And because of that, our temples all over, Japanese speaking, right, is different. So they would be in communication with Honganji in Japan, writing letters back and forth. So they were looked upon more with suspicion. The ministers were taken away, rounded up separately and quickly, because they were the leaders of the community. They were fluent in the language, and so they were targeted to be picked up very quickly. And some of the elders, we talk about how these temples got started, and main people, our grandparents, so, we should build a temple here, a spiritual center for our community here. So, Sharman's grandfather was one such person in Eastern Oregon. And so he wrote some of the letters to Honganji. So because the government became aware of this communication, he got taken away. He didn't see his family. They didn't have grandpa until the very, very end. Grandma was dying of breast cancer. He didn't see her until the final couple of weeks of her life. And these kind of things happen. Stories happen again and again. Okay. In my own family, my father was in Japan studying Buddhism. So he was an American citizen in Japan. So as an American citizen in Japan, he was restricted to travel, even though he looked like them, Japanese face, right? But they kept tabs on where he would go and who he would talk to and things like this. His brothers and sisters here, my aunts and uncles, they went to Camp Manzanar, and high school days. I didn't know about it, not until college. Sansei, my cousins, their kids started talking about, oh, my parents went to Manzanar, and still, I didn't know what that meant until reading further while I was in college, right? So a lot of these things kind of very, very gradually came out in our families, and I'm sure we could tell stories within this group. How did I come to know? How did I find out? How long did we not talk about it, right? And all these things. When we moved from Fresno, my father was a minister, moved from Fresno to the Placer Buddhist Church in Penryn, California. So that church is going past Stockton, you go towards Reno, and 45 minutes out of Sacramento is a small town called Penryn. So the Placer Buddhist Church is there, and when I moved, single-digit age, maybe second grade or something, I remember my father saying, oh, Saturday, they're going to have the JACL picnic. So, okay, what is that? So that means Japanese American Citizens League. So, okay. So I knew about Obon and the bazaar, right? But JCL picnic, that's something new to me. I wasn't sure what that meant. So, but it's a picnic. Okay, that'll be fun, right? I'm 7 years old, right? And so we're all getting ready and go in the car. We go to the picnic grounds, and later that would be where baseball practice was held, right? But all these families came, different cars start coming in, the mothers are putting out blankets or goza. Remember goza, the right, rolled up mats that you roll out, and you sit on your goza mat and bring out all the food, rice balls and chicken teriyaki and all these things that you're going to have for your family and share. And the men are bringing out these big buckets of ice where they're going to put soda and beer and all these stuff. And these are placed in the outskirts. They're bringing stuff for games, and it's kind of growing more and more and more, right? And pretty much looked like the same people I would see on Sunday, and they're all sitting out there and still continuing to grow. So, but I was expecting something different for Japanese Americans, not Buddhists, Japanese American Citizens League. So finally I went to my father's, Dad, where's all the Americans, right? I was expecting, you know, Gary Cox and Alan Hanaway from the school, right? All these kids that I go to school with. Where's the white people? I see the same Japanese faces I see on Sunday, but where's all the Americans? So I had a different perspective then, right? So gradually opening up to realize what it meant, a Japanese American Citizens League. But, you know, they are ones that write out something to remind us, present us with this day of remembrance and what's happening this year. Messages from Japanese American National Museum in Los Angeles. They put out messages, and so JACLs throughout the United States, they have connections with the government, whether it's the state capital, whether in Boise or Sacramento or where, and they might have something there commemorating this day of remembrance in their communities. All these things happen, right? When I was in the Northwest, we would have this, I started, why don't we have a group and invite all the different Buddhist groups, and we'll have a Wesak celebration, right? Here, we don't celebrate Wesak, we celebrate separately Hanamatsuri, right? And Nirvana Day, and the significant days of Shakyamuni Buddha. And the other groups, they recognize Wesak, that they combine the birth, death, and the enlightenment of the historical Buddha. So why don't we have a Wesak celebration and invite all the different Buddhist groups, and we could all put out our information and get to know each other. So this, sure, this sounds like good. And so there's like 8 different Buddhist groups, right? And most of them are pretty small. The Chinese group had nuns, and they were organized. But the other American groups, a little bit small, interested in Buddhism, doing meditation practice, whether it's, you know, Tibetan style or Zen style. And so they had different groups, and they would come and participate. And usually when you meet them, their questions are, what is your practice? You know, what kind of meditation do you do, basically? Who is your teacher? What is your tradition? And so most of them are not familiar with Shin Buddhism, right? Nembutsu recitation Buddhism. And so what they know of it is usually they think of it as more like a folk religion centered in the Japanese American community, and not a real Buddhism where you sit and meditate and practice, right? So we're kind of, I don't know, faith-based. We say Namo Amida Butsu, we think of Amida Buddha, and so simplified, they see it as this very faith-based religion and not a serious practice that we have to sit, right? And so now there's much more information, many more articles. Scholars of Shin Buddhism are being read. People are becoming aware of this Nembutsu practice that's been going on for centuries and centuries, okay? But initially, they thought it was something lesser than the practice that they had come to find and know. So in a way, it's kind of like even within the Buddhist community, there was a sense that Buddhism, there was like an appropriation of Buddhist tradition that they have taken as their own, right? And this is a lesser form. They have a real form of Buddhism. So it's kind of wondering, how come we are lesser, but we're more organized and we are bigger and we have so many more people, right? And so it was really good to come to interact with them, and they've come to see what Shin Buddhism is about, what Nembutsu practice is about, and they were really surprised. They're really good people, but they were surprised. I would come, and when something Dharma connected, not just organizing, but we'll have a service or something, so I'll put my robes on, and they might have beads, but they don't have robes. They're not this kind of organization. They sit together. And one of them said, "You're a minister full time. They pay you to do this." I said, yeah. This is my profession. I'm a minister, ordained in Japan, and I've come here and run this temple here in Idaho, Oregon, Ontario, Oregon. They pay you, right? And they're wondering about the funding and everyone else's, donations, and hopefully they have something. And but clearly we are the larger organization, and we've been here for 100 years, and they're starting out their first 10 years, 12 years or something like this. And so really opened their eyes, and they became to be a little more appreciative and maybe questions about other forms of Buddhism beyond their own. But these kind of things have happening and growing, and here also, during the camp times, the groups would get together within the camp and have services. Groups, the youth groups would become born. They would have this, the beginnings of our YBA under a different name would start. They would have these organizations and continue after camp was done, and to continue to meet, and this closeness came in part because we are part of this community, and marriages happen, there's gatherings, sports, dances, all these things, and people will be able to meet and mingle, and families grew of this, and it's a natural progression that the families became, mixed. Other people gradually learning more about the Buddhist practice, coming to find this temple. Alameda is very fortunate because we start with A. That's the first one they find when they're Googling, which temple should I visit? So they come here and take a peek inside, and I tell people, just come to a service and see. You could just look around and see if you fit in or not, right? See if you feel comfortable or not, and people come. So this is okay. People are not, wearing saffron robes and little, making sounds and dancing around with incense in their hands or something. Everyday people, normal people. They go to work. We come here, and on Sundays we gather, chanting together, eating together, and mingling. We talk. More and more people come. Okay, non-Japanese American, of all different groups coming. And this is how it should be, right? To grow beyond ethnic connection, ethnic identity. If it's just going to be Japanese American, we should just close all the temples, because that's not what the teachings are about, right? So gradually, I think very naturally, we grow and expand. People see there's something special here, right? I'm tired of the guilt trip that other traditions have put on me, and there must be a different spiritual path that's comfortable to me. And they find it here. Many people find it here, right? And so this is all kind of a progression that we go through as individuals and as families, as a Buddhist community, and all these things happen, okay? So there's a lot to recognize and to realize all this impact that comes in the background, in the foreground. Right? When it comes to memorial services and funerals, part of my talk, I try to make a point, mom or dad, grandma or grandpa passes away, and these young people maybe never been to the Buddhist temple before, and maybe they're not of this, they're not Buddhist, but for them to recognize, this Buddhist consciousness and the values we've had in our families extending back before the Issei came here for 500, 600 years in Japan. So this is what their families brought forward, even though maybe they changed and became Christian families once they came here. All this impact of being looked upon as other or different, having this Japanese face, maybe it was safer to say I'm Christian instead of saying I'm Buddhist, right? It's more mainstream. It's more closer to being a part of this dominant culture that is all around us. So was it really saying, I'll look at Buddhism, I'll look at Christianity, I picked this one? Or was it just a matter of safety, to feel more comfortable, to feel more a part of and not separate from? All these things happen to our parents, our grandparents, our friends, and what was it? How do you just change? I'm Christian now, and we ignore centuries of our family, our own families that were Buddhist. It's not like there's a part of it that, I went to college, my grandparents didn't get to go to college, but my parents, third generation, fourth generation, all went to college. But that doesn't necessarily mean we know more or we're smarter, right? They were all a bunch of dummies for centuries and centuries, and we passed them up because we went to UC Berkeley. I don't think so, right? They knew something, and they grew with it, They held this, and the Nembutsu teachings kept their lives, their families in stability. What happened to all that? Some of us know and feel that sense here, but some of us lose that because of, not just choices, but these pressures that come from things happening in society, good and bad, things that have happened. And this is the influence of things. This executive order is part of it. So many other things are part of it, okay? Different cultures go through different things. And so we want to be aware as much as possible, as sensitive as much as possible, and be welcoming nevertheless. So these are my thoughts. I think we'll have a chance to share now after service, or maybe instead of ask Reverend Dennis, but we'll have a little bit of communication before and after the film. So for now, please join me in Gassho. We'll conclude this. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I can make a few comments myself, and why I'm attracted to Buddhism, because it's about gratitude. It's not about what can I do, what am I going to get. It's about what do you have and what are you paying attention to, and where's the love and the forgiveness. So now we'll have our Odoku-san on page 220. And after the Gatha, it could be seated for a couple announcements. So please be seated. Thank you, Reverend Fujimoto, and those who helped with the altar preparations and with the service. Also, anyone who made any special offerings. Thank you to those who helped with the Reverend Dennis YouTube that he does. Darren, who makes sure that happens. Altar Flowers, Jackie, Dorothy, and Lenny, and special to Lenny, our wonderful organist. Okay, so after, you always have refreshments and then the film, of course, down below. So I hope everybody can stay. And be sure to do Oshoko. That was it. I said it. There's more? Whoops. Oh boy. Okay. Any newcomers? Don't be shy. You can get up. Nobody? No? Okay. Well, welcome everybody for returning. Okay, next Sunday on March 2, we have our Taikyo service, and it will be virtual at 10 a.m. Please join us and watch it here in the social hall. And then the ABWA meeting will be after the service and refreshments. And then on Sunday, March 9, will be the Shosuki service, our monthly memorial, and we're having the guest speaker of Kenji Akahoshi, and he's really a great speaker. I went to a retreat that he gave years ago down in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and it was fabulous. So I hope everyone is sure to be here for him. Thank you. So thank you for attending. And so come forward and offer incense, and then join for the refreshments and the film.
Before we come up to Oshoko, again, to let you know, next week we're going to have a service on the large screen in the social hall. So this setting will be over there, and so this room will be available for the ABWA meeting and such. But the Buddhist Churches of America, we're having our National Council meetings, and we always conclude with a Taikyo service, and this is provided in person at the Berkeley Temple to invited guests, and I'm part of that. Jane and Howard will be part of that. A lot of our members will be gathering here to view it and participate on the screen, so the social hall is a little bit more comfortable to sit and relax and chat, but the front table will be set up with incense and flowers and such as our altar. Okay, so the guest speaker will be Reverend J. Dennis Shinseki. He's retired and just retired, and so we're going to honor him by offering this opportunity to speak to this national audience. So this is what happens at each of our National Council meetings, where retiring ministers are invited to speak. And so Reverend Shinseki has a wonderful career for many, many years. A lot of us know him, and he's been here probably, and so he'll be the speaker. So we'll have opportunity for that. You can participate at home as well, but this will be available and open to many people who will want to come. I know the ABWA members and families will be coming here, so the more the merrier always. All right. So today is also our Ask Reverend Dennis session, and we have no questions, so that's about the end of it. I've been asked a couple things, and people are asking that they didn't know about when you enter and exit, how you bow before you come in, and how we before we open and close the books to do this respectfully, and things of these types of practices, and even how to offer incense. And I would like to do that, not today, but at a time when maybe at a major service, I'm going to turn this and be the model for everyone on how to oshoko, and some of us do it beautifully. Most of us do it beautifully, but some of us are still, how do I don't remember every single step, and I forget every single time. And so just as a reminder, we'll go through some of those things, but that won't be today. But if you have similar questions, send them to me and we'll include it on those kind of times. For today, we have a couple minutes, and maybe we could reflect a little bit more on this Day of Remembrance idea. And how many of us were in camp? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Okay. So these people have gone through that experience, and we can talk to them and have them share their experiences and what they had to go through, some of their family members, and who can say something about that? Did you seem like it was more common than not to not say anything, really? You know, if people brought it up, then they knew about it, and so you could talk about it, but it was not that people were trying to keep secrets, but there was no point to talk about it or to bring it up. So, Ron, did you have a sense of that growing up?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I think it was discussed much in family gatherings.
So,
I don't know what the reason was for that.
mhm. So how old were you?
I was born in camp.
Born in
I
camp.
don't remember the experience at all.
Mhm. Yeah, people ask me when I came from Japan, and I tell them I came on the boat coming over, had my first birthday on the boat coming over. So I don't, nothing to remember, nothing to forget, right? So some of the younger ones, like Ron, are born in camp, and yeah, probably very fortunate to be held and carried and taken care of during those kind of difficult times. So, how about some other voices?
I was 7 years old.
7? Okay.
I met a lot of nice friends,
Mm-hmm.
and it was not a hardship on me, but it was on the parents.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that much later after I became an adult. How difficult it was for them.
Yeah, I think my auntie was maybe similar in age, so being with a lot of friends, it was a comfortable place, and you could play, and the older ones were worried, right? And we didn't have to. Yeah. Other voices? Okay, Dorothy?
My family did not speak too much about what was going on, but the one thing my mother did say was when she gave birth to my sister, it was probably the most traumatic time in her life. I couldn't find help trying to get out of camp to give birth to her. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, all the health care was a lot less than it is now, certainly, and to be in a camp, in a prison, to be scrambling at that type of time in your life. Yeah, very difficult. Karen, you had something?
I did have a really good friend who went to camp, and he said he was a teenager, and he said, you know, Karen, you want to know about that? Well, we got to play football all day long, every day. And he said the worst thing about camp that he remembers is coming out of there with sore knees, because yeah, the surface wasn't like a regular football field; it was more of a hard surface. And he said it wasn't really
yeah, a lot of difficult things happen. So, Judy.
I went to the pilgrimage for Tule Lake and found out all the experiences my parents went through, and it was so bad that I cried most of the time I was there to find out what they went through.
Yeah, a lot of different reactions, and we learn different aspects as we go. Um, yeah, difficult times. Jackie?
My mother had a wood at Topaz, and she said because the barracks had to be built so quickly, they used, I think, wood that had not aged yet. And so at the time the wood shrank, and they had sandstorms there. And so there were gaps between the planks in the barracks, and they used to fill those gaps with whatever they could, or whatever, to keep all that dust, dust and sand from coming into the barracks.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I think one of the things, when we think of camp, we think of it as we're all in the same boat kind of sense, but even in camp, it's like even in prison, we see, there are different groups, there are people who are predators, right? So even within the camps, there is danger that you don't expect, not coming in from the outside, but people on the inside who are preying on others or taking advantage of others, bullying and those kind of things. Or yeah, so being adolescent, I would think, especially the female, you were all the more vulnerable. Where could you go? Where could you go? And so there's a lot of situations where dangers became very much a reality there too, right? So it's not only us and them kind of sense, but even within any kind of group, any kind of setting, there are people looking out to take advantage of. And so those kind of aspects were a part of the camp experience as well. So. Dorothy?
I think the whole social thing about the no boys compared to the ones who said okay, yeah, that was a whole big point of friction, within the community.
Okay, we're past time, so we're going to stop for now. We can continue more after the film, but let me relight the incense, and we could come up in Oshooko and go down to the social hall. You're not required to stay to watch the film, but you are welcome to. Okay, thank you.